There are a lot of conversations happening right now in the state of North Carolina and South Carolina regarding the Carolina Panthers and their wide receiving core. We go back to the start of the season, and it felt like after the draft that we had a pretty good core here. Core with Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, Deontay Johnson, throwing Xavier Legette, and you're like, these guys can work along together and build out a really nice core for Bryce Young. But here we are months later, still trying to figure out the plan for the offseason. And I got to tell you, I hate to do this, but we're going to add another wrinkle into the mix and play a what if game. But it's a little bit different what if game than maybe you're used to. So the question is, what if the Carolina Panthers had drafted Ladd McConkey? And no, you know what? Coming out with Ladd, I know I personally wasn't high on him, but there was a lot of folks that were. There was a lot of Carolina Panther fans that were like, hey, he is the guy. We have to draft him. He's got really good hands, really good route running. He can get open, and that's the type of weapon that Bryce Young needs. But as we played this what if game, I think we have to think about, well, when you consider the situation, was the primary reason that Ladd McConkey was not drafted was because of Adam Thielen. And I think it is a very valid question. Before we get too deep into this, let's talk about Ladd McConkey's season. So number one, he is 14th in the NFL in receiving. He did eclipse 1,000 yards. He has 1,054 yards, 77 receptions, 7 touchdowns, 13.7 yards per catch. On top of that, his yak is 347 yards. But I don't think that really does justice to what Ladd McConkey has been able to do. One, let's start with some NFL Pro stats, and these are powered by Next Gen, some of the best stats that are available. If you have an NFL Pro subscription, no, I'm not promoted by them or paid by them. I would recommend it if you're a football nerd and want to learn more, not just about the Panthers, but anyone else in the NFL. They posted this stat. Ladd McConkey has recorded the second most receiving yards, 706, and the most receiving yards over expected, plus 151, when aligned in the slot this season. So remember, he is a slot receiver. McConkey has averaged 10.5 yards per target, which is the fourth most, and logged 32, which is the second most, first down receptions out of the slot. You throw into that mix and take a look at his production here. Ladd McConkey has aligned in the slot on 2/3 of his snaps this season, 66.1%. And he's recorded the second most receiving yards out of that alignment in the entire NFL. McConkey has generated plus 141 receiving yards, which has now gone up to 151. We talked about it being the second most, but that's the highest number by a rookie wide receiver through this late in the year since 2018, and it does not tell you who the other receiver was. The short of the story is, one, he's a slot receiver. And so I think it's a very valid question because, shout out to Keep Purring Ben, he posed the question around our wide receiver room and really the discussion about who we should draft. And was there a thought here that, well, we've got Adam Thielen and we have Deontay Johnson? Is that part of the reason that we didn't go with Ladd McConkey? And I decided to take a little bit further, and I think really the decision not to draft Ladd McConkey to me feels like Xavier Legette was going to be a third piece to this puzzle. So Deontay Johnson is your number one. He's your X. Adam Thielen is in your slot. And then you pair along with them Xavier Legette, who's just a different type of receiver. So that's what it felt like the Panthers were trying to do. And unfortunately, at least to this point, it hasn't worked out. Now, there's another side to this what if game. And for me, it's looking forward into next year. And so as we look at the 2025 draft, and it's here, can't believe we're already in 2025. So technically not next year. But as we look at the 2025 NFL draft for the Carolina Panthers, I think we should rethink the draft, primarily focusing on best player available. And in this instance, when you were probably weighing these two, I think on paper, Ladd McConkey was the best player. Panthers chose to go with someone that was more of a fit. and pick them over the true need and the best player that could help him in the long run. Sure, you would have had to figure out like how do you balance Ladd McConkey with Adam Thielen, but I think with Adam Thielen getting a little bit older, it would have made way more sense in the long run. So yeah, sure, I'm happy with Xavier Legette. I think he's going to figure it out, but I also think it's a valid point for Panthers fans to wonder what if the Panthers had drafted Ladd McConkey. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Drop a comment below. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good